In the High Leaves of a Walnut by Robert Laurence Binyon, 1869 to 1943. In the high leaves of a walnut, on the very topmost boughs, a boy that climbed the branching bole his cradled limbs would house. On the airy bed that rocked him, long idle hours he'd lie, alone with white clouds sailing, the warm blue of the sky. I remember not what his dreams were, but the scent of a leaf's enough to house me higher than those boughs in a youth he knew not of, in a light that no day brings now, but none can smoil or smutch, a magic that I felt not then, and only now I touch. Okay, this is a poem by Laurence Binyon. He was born in Lancaster in Lancashire, that's northeast England. His father was a Church of England priest. Binyon went to St Paul's School, London, and then Trinity College, Oxford. He worked in the British Museum for most of his life, and he's most famous for his poem For the Fallen, which is often recited on Remembrance Sunday. And this is a poem about the dead of the First World War, but the dead of all wars. Binyon volunteered as a hospital worker in 1915 in the First World War, and worked briefly in France on the hospital in the hospitals. Anyway, in the high leaves of a walnut, what's this poem about? Well, this poem is about youth. It's about a memory from youth. It's about being high up in a walnut tree. And when he was a kid, he used to climb high up into this walnut tree, and he was in his own world up there. And this was a wonderful place. It was his own place. It was his safe place. And now, as an adult, he thinks back to being in that walnut tree, and he remembers and he misses this, and he wishes he could go back to that state of youth and innocence, but this is something that has gone. And once we grow up, this is a state that we cannot attain again. And he's thinking that this was a wonderful feeling, but he didn't understand how special it was when he was young, but now that he's older, he does. In the high leaves of a walnut, on the very topmost boughs, a boy that climbed the branching bole his cradled limbs would house. So, high up in this walnut tree, on the very top branches, a boy that climbed the branching bole. The bole is the trunk of the tree, and the bole has branches. The trunk has branches coming from it, and he would climb up these branches, and then when he got to the very top, he would have a cradle, a bed, a place to sit, a place to lie, and the tree would be his bed. On the airy bed that rocked him, long idle hours he'd lie, alone with white clouds sailing, the warm blue of the sky. So he's on this bed in the air, high up in the air, and he'd lie there for hours, and he's alone with the clouds. He's communing with the beauty of nature, the beauty of the clouds in the sky, the beautiful warm feeling of the sky. So this is clearly summer. I remember not what his dreams were, but the scent of the leaf's enough to house me higher than those high boughs in a youth he knew not of. So I don't remember the dreams that I had when I was here. I don't remember the things that I was dreaming of. But nowadays, if I smell a leaf, the smell of a leaf, it's enough to transport me, to transport my mind once again to higher than those boughs, so to the heavens, to this wonderful place in a youth he knew not of. And I think this is saying that when we're young, we don't appreciate the youth that we're living in. We don't appreciate our the situation. We don't appreciate quite how special this is. We don't appreciate the innocence. And nowadays, now that he's older, the smell of a leaf can transport his mind to remembering this position, this situation, this situation of grace, of youth before adulthood. In a light that no day brings now, and none can spoil or smutch, a magic that I felt not then, and now I only touch. So he was living in a light, in this light that is not the light that he lives in now. His mentality today is not the same, now that he's grown up, is not the same as the way he viewed the world then. And this light, this memory, is something that can never be spoiled or smutched or made dirty. And he didn't feel the magic now, or perhaps he did feel the magic now, but he didn't understand it. He didn't understand how the value of it, because there was nothing to contrast it against. There was no juxtaposition. So he didn't understand how magical that was. And now the magic of this is only something that he can just touch in his memory. He can touch it in his mind. So this poem, it's about the innocence of youth. It's about this child being on high up in this tree, and this wonderful feeling, this feeling of freedom. And when he was young, he didn't appreciate it, he didn't understand this, but now that he's older, he remembers it, and this is something he misses and he would love to go back to. So, In the High Leaves of a Walnut by Robert Laurence Binyon.